Hey everybody, so I've got another What Sold video for you. I am just going to give you the highlights of the rest of March. So it's about 2 weeks left to March, and I decided to just hit some of the items that are either interesting or we can learn from, or just I think are cool or something like that. So I know I kind of prefer when I do my What Solds to show you everything, because I think you also can learn. We can all learn from our mistakes, and we can learn from the things that we probably shouldn't have picked up. You can see that it's not just, we're just real resellers, right? So I'm not just going to show you the $50 and $100 ones, because we sell a lot of items that sell for a lot less than that. But for the sake of time and to really get myself caught up on these What Sold videos, I am just going to show you kind of the highlights of the end of March, like I said. So we're starting with this Culver glass. Culver, let me see if I can find the picture that's got the signature on it. This was for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I actually, oh, here we go. It had a sticker. So I had picked this up. It took a while to sell, but I think it's mostly because I had it on Ruby Lane. So smaller audience, we decided, I guess, and if I'm remembering this correctly, I think Mr. Pish Posh came across it, and I just said, oh, I've got that on Ruby Lane, but it did need a bigger audience. So we put it over onto eBay, and it sold for $24.99. Next up is a set of flatware. I picked this up at Goodwill, and it's Fiesta, so I recognized it. It was in baggies at Goodwill on the baggie wall, and it's just plastic handled. It had, you can see the one knife is still in the plastic sleeve, and they were all kind of bundled up into these plastic bags, and it had the original store tag. So it was like maybe the original boxes got damaged, but then the store, or they were returned or something, the store just kind of bundled it and made little stickers, or maybe it was the outlet or something. I have this vague memory that it was like JCPenney or Macy's or someplace like that. Anywho, I decided to just put the whole set together and it was a complete service for $4, so I decided to leave it that way. The periwinkle color, there wasn't a whole lot of comps for that color, and so I decided, like I said, just to kind of sell it all together as a set. And so we sold it for, I think there was a coupon running at this time, so we sold it for $63 for this service for $4, and it was a couple little bundles, so I probably paid about $6 for it. Next up is some plates by Denby. This is a good one of the, Denby, I've said this before, not all Denby is created equal. Some Denby patterns sell super fast and super well. This is one of the patterns, Baroque. And I have sold plates before. I think I went back to the thrift store where I had picked some up, and they had some more, so I grabbed the rest of what they had put out, and they just kind of got lost in our garage. So we came across them, got them listed again, and these sold for the $124.99 minus the 10% coupon, and 4 plates for over $100. I think that's pretty good. So it's definitely a pattern that I would pick up again in the future if I came across it. Next up is a knife. We got this from our ongoing estate sale that we go to, and it was interesting. It was a day, I think I mentioned it maybe in my last What Sold, but the lady who runs it let us go up into her storage where she hadn't put stuff out yet. And so that was exciting. And we came across this knife. I think we maybe paid about $10 or so, but it sold for $65. It's by Calphalon. And it was probably sold, the woman whose estate this is, a lot of the stuff that we're coming across was just sold at TJ Maxx or places like that, but a while back. And so some of these things are, you know, I had sold some perfume that was probably just sold at TJ Maxx, but now you can't get it. It's hard to get. So anyway, that was the story on that. Next up was a skirt. Now, I'd heard about this brand for a long time, Spell and the Gypsy, and I will show you the tag. It wasn't new with tags, but it, you know, the little like price taggy little piece was still there, but not the tag itself. And so that's the brand, Spell and the Gypsy. I thought it would sell a lot faster. It's such a boho looking skirt, and I think it had a name. I found the name of it with Google Lens, and I've been sending out offers and all that. And I've probably had it listed since last fall. So it finally sold for $70, which totally fine. Good for me. I mean, I'm happy with that price, even if it took a little while to sell. But from what I had heard about the brand, I just expected it to go a lot quicker. Next up is this Wilton Armatal pewter serving bowl. I'll show you the mark on that. Let's see if we have a closer mark. We should. Here we go. Now Wilton, so it's RWP, so, and then it says Wilton Armatal or Armatali around this side, and there's a website. We have found selling these things that it really depends on subject matter. Some pieces will sell for a lot less and some for a lot more. This was a big serving bowl, but it was a very kind of lodge Western kind of look that we knew it's popular. So we started out pretty high, $90 for this bowl. There weren't too many comps on it, and we sold that one for $70 as well. And I don't remember where we got it. I think Mr. Pish Posh picked it up just on one of our thrifting trips, but I can't remember exactly what store it was, and I don't know why that's just that. Okay, so now we have Mr. Donuts. We have a couple kind of diner mugs, restaurant wear it's called, and these are for Mr. Donut since 1955 in Boston, Massachusetts. And I think we shared these before, and I had a viewer talk about Mr. Donut. And so I was looking at the history, and it's very interesting that Mr. Donut was started by the brother, is that right? The brother of the person who started Dunkin' Donuts. So I think they started together, and then they each split up and made their own donut shops. And so one made Mr. Donut and one did Dunkin' Donuts. So anyway, a little bit of history that you didn't need, but $40 for these two coffee mugs. Now we've got a pair of sandals. As you can see, very spring, you know, this was end of March. People were looking towards the better weather. I mean, the buyer could have lived somewhere where it was already warm, but these sold for $30. The brand is Alegria. I believe it's a brand that it used to do much, much better. Higher prices, such like that. So I will only pick it up if the shoes are in really, really good condition and I can get them fairly inexpensively. And that was true of this pair of shoes. So $30 for that pair of sandals. But I just thought I'd mention the brand. Now I wanted to just share this old pattern that I listed. A lot of times, now this pattern most likely dates to the 1910s. So pretty old, an antique sewing pattern, and it's by McCall. It's McCall's, but as you can see, it was before there was the apostrophe S, so it's just a McCall pattern. It was 10 cents when it came out. It's called a Balkan blouse with shield. So I just wanted to mention it because the condition was pretty rough, but also not just because it's an antique sewing pattern doesn't mean it's going to sell for like $100 or anything like this. So this one I ended up taking an offer, I think of like $18 or $20 on this one. It was 20. And yeah, so a lot of it will have to do with what the piece is, right? So certain dresses and certain styles are going to do way better in the pricing than something like this. And it's just, you know, you would think the value would be high because it's so rare, but that's not necessarily true. The fashion and the style has a lot to do with it as well. Next up was a rain spooner. We sold this one for $51. It sold pretty quickly. This was something, as I was like, you know what, I really need to get going on my spring and summer type items. This I picked up at the thrift store on half price day. I paid $5, but it was new with tags. And so it's not vintage rain spooner, which is normally what I would focus on, but for $5 new with tags, I knew I couldn't go wrong. I was even thinking if I got $25, $30, I'd be fine with it. But it was a size XL, originally sold at Macy's. And so I listed it for $60 and I took an offer for $51. And then a Starbucks mug we sold for $31.49. The location on this is, I probably shouldn't even try to pronounce it, but it has to do, in the Philippines. And anyway, so when I found it, there was this mug and a Philippines mug together. And so the Philippines mug sold already. This one was a little bit harder to find. I think I actually sold the Philippines one for a little bit less, but this one sold for $31.49, so not too bad for a Starbucks mug these days. Johnny Was still continues to do pretty well. This sold super fast for me. I picked it up at the end of the season last year at a yard sale, and it was really going right into fall when I picked it up, so I just decided to hold on to it, even though it probably would have sold then as well. It's just I was so busy with my sweaters and things like that that I just never got around to it. But I thought, you know what? Same thing. I was trying to get that summer, get a head start on the spring and summer fashions, and I still had this hanging on my closet door, and so I listed it for $60. I took an offer for $45. There were others listed, and there was, you know, others in different, it wasn't a super rare example of Johnny Was, and it didn't have a size tag as well. So when I got the $45 offer, like the next day after I listed it, I said, you betcha, because I paid like $2 at the yard sale or something. Next up is a pair of pillowcases, and I just included this because I wanted to show how Ralph Lauren bedding can do super, super well. These sold for $30, and I did pay $7. These were at the ongoing estate sale, and I didn't get them the first couple times I was there and saw them. I was like, $7, I don't know about that. But I'm glad I got them because they also sold within a couple days. And they're just a plain blue. Now, if you can get floral Ralph Lauren bedding, that is big, big money. So just plain blue ones, but they sold for $30 very, very quickly. Now, I wanted to share this one, even though this is a brand I don't know that you'll come across. I don't know that I'll come across this brand again. But it was like, I think I was shopping at my thrift store on their dollar day. And so I was just kind of going through the racks looking for, you know, whatever would be $1. And I saw this, and it just had an interesting enough look. It had sequins. It was like an open duster, an open cardigan. And the tag, it's not something I would even look twice at. And it's just called Vocal, but made in the USA. So I checked comps real quick because I didn't want to just end up getting, something that was just going to sit and only sell for $15. I do that often enough, and I need to not. but here you go. It's called Be Vocal, and then made in the USA, and it was a size 2XL, even though it was an open cardigan type thing. But it was short sleeve. I thought it was good for spring. Comps were pretty good, and it sold like within a day or two for my full asking price of $40. So I was just like, I think it was my full asking. I'm supposed to check. Yep, $40 for that. And I was just like, that's just crazy. You know, you just never know what's out there. There's stuff out there that you have to kind of be open to double checking when you're sourcing, especially if it looks somewhat interesting. I decided to share these creative memories. Creative memory stuff for me used to sell like, ooh, overnight. I'd be so excited to find it at the thrifts. Now it still sells, but to me, it just takes a little bit longer. And it's kind of a pain in the butt because the things are 12 by 12. They need to be protected. And so you have to have either a stay flat envelope big enough, or you have to make something to ship it in. And the prices are kind of going down, so it's getting less and less worth it. So I tend to end up lotting more and more things together to hopefully make the whole shipping process a little bit more worth it. I'm also just sharing these Converse sneakers. I generally only pick up Converse if it's vintage or if it's an unusual pattern, and of course if condition is good. Converse can be cleaned. We just don't want to spend a whole lot of time cleaning shoes and footwear. We've got so much other stuff to do, but I like the pattern on these. They're kind of like neon stripes, neon lights or whatever. And so those just sold for $34.99, our full asking price. Then a pair of hiking shoes, Merrell's. I think they just sold for $40, so not bad. They were really good condition. They were women's. Men's Merrell's will sell a little bit higher. I think I only picked them up because of what good condition they were in. Then here is the trivet. We mentioned it in one of our videos, but it was a while back because it took a little bit for Mr. Pish Posh to get it touched up. And it's not like made in Denmark or anything like that, but it is by Dansk. I think this one was made in Malaysia, like it says in the title. But it's still sought after. It's a sought after style. And we sold it for $38.99. Now here's the belt I mentioned in my women's belt video, and unfortunately it was returned to me. Fortunately, she chose didn't fit as her reason for return. In her comments, she said that it was different than I described, but she didn't choose not as described as her reason for returning. So I am going to double check my measurements. She might have just looked at the pictures. She said it varied, the measurement varied from my description. So like I said, I will double check my measurements. I gave a span of sizing because there's 3 holes. I think there's just 3. And I measure, to where the holes are, the closest and the furthest, and I give both measurements. So we'll see. I'm going to redo it and, double check. I just got the belt back last night. We got it back this weekend, but we were out of town. And so I just got it last night and I looked it over, refunded her and everything. But it was not a item not as described return, which is not a big deal as long as you take care of your buyer, as long as you go ahead and refund them. Oh, it has more than 3 holes. Anyway, so I did give measurements on all those holes. But like I said, I will double check that before. I haven't relisted it yet because I want to make sure I don't go through this with somebody else. And I was about to say that it is marked size 36, but I don't know what that means because the belt is nowhere near a waist size 36. So that might just be, European sizing, and that has to do with the belt size, and maybe she didn't understand that. Maybe she just looked at the pictures. I don't know. But my measurements were all in the listing. So we'll just relist, see how it does the next time. We sold this hat. I just wanted to mention it because it sold for $27. Because I've talked about this brand before, Harris Tweed brand, whatever. It's the wool is Harris Tweed, and so this was the tag that's inside the hat. So just to be on the lookout, it's not necessarily just blazers or sport coats or overcoats or anything like that. That it can be, you know, in accessories as well. And it was like a newsboy style flat cap kind of thing, and it sold for, like I said, $27. This was fun. This glassware is by Atala, and I had 5 of them. I found them at like it's a consignment store. Yeah, I guess just basically a consignment, kind of like an antique. And in the back they have some shelves of just goods. You know, the rest of the store is pretty much well staged, and it's a lot of expensive furniture and things like that. So, but I like to poke around in the shelves in the back. And so I saw these glasses and I recognized them right away as Atala. They're not marked or anything. I just know the pattern. And so I looked at the price. There was 5 of them, and I think they were asking like $24, $25, like around $5 a glass. And I said, you know what, that's really not that bad. And so even though that's, you know, higher than I would pay probably at a thrift store, they're sought after. People collect this pattern pretty easily. You know, they sell pretty well. And so I sold this set of 5 glasses for $90. Then I wanted to throw some flatware in here. This is Serving Pieces by Mikasa. Mikasa is a fairly good brand. It might not sell super quickly, but I've always been able to sell whatever Mikasa I have listed. And these sold for $29.99, so the 3 pieces. It came in a bag at Goodwill, and I would say I probably paid $2.99, possibly with a coupon. So, you know, about $1 a piece into $10 a piece. And that works for me for flatware. Easy to list. Tilly, I wanted to remind you of this brand of hat, of outdoor hat to keep an eye out for. This one just sold for $32, but some of the darker ones we've sold for $40, $50 as well. And we usually pick these up at our little bins, our little outlet center. And I think that's where I got this. This was just the case for, the brand is called Reinhold Kuhn. Here's the little sticker. And it was just a faux tortoise kind of looking case. And so we went pretty high. Mr. Pishposh, he goes higher than I would do sometimes. And I go, I think we want stuff to sell faster. But then I think sometimes we get higher prices because we've added that perceived value to an item. Let me know in the comments below, what's your strategy? We go back and forth all the time between pricing high, using best offer, sending offers, letting people think they get a deal, and then ending up a little higher maybe than you expected. And then we go back and forth to like, no, we need to price like at a really good price and then send offers and just try to move stuff faster. I don't know. We go back and forth all the time. So not a lot of consistency. So which one do you guys prefer? And then sometimes we go with like high prices on stuff that's really unusual and hard to find, and then lower prices on like bread and butter type items. I think that's a really good way to do it. Okay, so back in the day, in my Etsy heyday of selling vintage and like trying to find mid-century type things to sell and focusing on that, and mid-century was hot, 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 especially on Etsy. These drawer pulls or dresser pulls or cabinet pulls or whatever you want to call them, hardware, these would have sold in like such a hot minute. So we've had them on Etsy. I've had them on Etsy individually with a quantity of 12. We had them as a lot on Etsy. We had them in 2 different stores on Etsy. We finally moved them over to eBay as a one big lot. But I was like, hardware is expensive. New hardware is expensive at the store. So to me, $10 a piece for authentic, new old stock, mid-century, copper colored cabinet hardware was not unreasonable. And so we just like stuck to that price, $125. We weren't even getting offers, nothing. And then finally someone just bought them all. But it, like, I've had these for years. So I don't know. Mid-century does not move as fast, you know, as it did 10 years ago or even a little bit less. But I still love it. I still love picking it up. Then I just wanted to throw these in here because I made a mistake. We made a mistake, and I just wanted to share how we handled this because mistakes happen when you're reselling, no matter how long you've been reselling. Poor Mr. Pish Posh wasn't feeling good, and it's just kind of been a mix. We've talked about when we're pulling items, you know, to ship, he's kind of taken over more and more of like pulling the item before he ships. He's making the shipping list. I used to do all that, and I would find all the stuff and give it to him. But since he was kind of controlling the inventory at this point now, he knows where half the stuff is. So I just usually have to provide things that maybe I listed and I know where I put them, and so I give those to him. Now Flatware, our Flatware needs a little bit of work at the moment, but we generally have a couple places that we put it. And we have sold this pattern, Chateau. Mr. Pish Posh listed this pattern. It's several listings. We had a big set, and it's broken into several listings. And so he had already, like, we had already sold and shipped some from this thing. So I didn't think anything of it. And so a couple days later, I think these sold on a Friday. And so Monday we're doing shipping, and some more from this pattern had sold. And he's all confused. He's like, where is this Flatware? And like he was just having a rough day. He was having a rough day with whatever it is that he has for his not feeling good. We don't have a name for it, but it was a super foggy day for him, and he was trying to wrap his head around stuff. And he was like, I said, well, you sold some of this recently, like, where did you pull it from? And he's like, I don't even know. So it turns out, he's like, I pulled it from that box under the cabinet. And I was like, that box under the cabinet is stuff I have listed on Ruby Lane. Okay, long story. Like I said, our Flatware inventory is kind of in a muddle at the moment. And so I said, okay, so you sent her the wrong Flatware, but it was too soon. She hadn't received it yet. And so we were like, you know, we hadn't gotten a notification from the buyer, like, you sent me the wrong pattern. So I was able to message her really quickly and say, you know, and fortunately, like, we hadn't sent these, right? And so we just told her, we said, keep the Flatware I sent you. We sent you the wrong 4 spoons. Just go ahead and keep that. And the correct spoons are on their way to you today. And so I got a message back from her later, and she's like, oh, no problem. Thank you so much, right? So that was it. So all I had to do was go to Ruby Lane and take off the 4 spoons that were on Ruby Lane. So most buyers, that's all I wanted to say, is that most buyers are pretty reasonable. You know, they know people make mistakes and everything like that. And she just had a delay in getting what it was that she ordered. And I apologized, and I refunded her shipping for the inconvenience of having to wait those few extra days for the correct order. So, anyway, it was just one of those weird kind of random days where, you know, Mr. Pish Posh wasn't feeling that great. So I'll just try to also, you know, kind of get back. You just kind of fall into like different patterns of what needs to be done. And then something like this happens and you're just like, you know what, we should kind of work on checking each other as well, because we both make mistakes all the time. This shirt was a nice sale. It was Carhartt, but it's new with tags, Carhartt Force, and it was, like I said, it was new with tags. We had gotten some lowball offers on it before, but then someone kind of out of the blue just paid full price of $50 for that shirt. Next up is a fun one. I just wanted to share this with you. I got this at our little clearance center. And let me show you the box. We got to go down to the pictures. So it was in this little box. And it's so cute. So it says, this is the Hills Brothers, so the coffee company, jigsaw puzzle. And it said there's a story on the back. And it's, you know, it was very promotion. It was like a promotion that they sent out to people. As you can see, it had the address of the original person who had it. And this was from like back in the 30s. Okay, so they sent out these little puzzles. So again, it's my clearance center, so I'm paying hardly anything for these. So it was just fun. We put it together real quick, and there were missing pieces. Unfortunately, right up here in this, the sign, "Where's the fire?" So we could have, sorry, I'm getting a text from Mr. Pish Posh, and he's offering me a coffee or a chai. So hold on, it's important. I have to tell him yes. Okay. And then I'm just going to tell him real quick that I'm making a video in the living room and to be quiet when he comes in. But hopefully I'll be done by then, by the time he gets here. Okay. So anyway, it was just super cute. So if this had been complete, I think there was 2 pieces missing. It probably would have been like more like $50. And I ended up selling it for, I think, just $25, which I think is still pretty good for something I hardly paid anything for. But it's just the history. It's just like, how cool is this? Like, if that was complete, wouldn't that be cool to like frame that or something? That would be awesome. Okay, and then I wanted to share this belt sale with you, even though it wasn't a high dollar amount, but because we've talked about belts so much lately, I picked up this Steve Madden belt because the buckle is amazing, right? The buckle is the safety pin. Steve Madden's not the greatest brand, but it sold for $22. And, you know, there's a little blemish there on the brass. Then some more flatware. I just wanted to throw that out there because Flatware is good, good, good. Cambridge, this, I've said it before, Cambridge is not a flatware brand that I'm like, ooh, yay, Cambridge. And I pass by a lot of Cambridge flatware, but Townhouse is one of the patterns that I will pick up. It's very heavy duty when you come across it, if that helps you remember it. Heavy, heavy. And then because of the hair accessory video, I wanted to share a sale that I had for this pick. So I sold this pick and another blue one to the same buyer. This one was $14.99. She bought the other one for $12.99 because it had a little bit of a condition issue. But I still have like 2 or 3 of these in different colors left. But look at that, $15 for this little made in the USA vintage goodie hair pick. So if you want to watch the hair video where we talk about stuff like that, I will put a link at the end of the video for that. Then I sold this vintage bathroom hardware. It's a toilet paper holder and a towel bar. We had these listed separately with no takers and then decided to put them together and sold them for $65. Let's go over to Posh. We'll look real quick at the some highlights from Posh for those couple weeks. Filson shorts sold for $65. So these probably even did better than some of the Filson pants that I had. Judy Blue, this is a name to keep an eye out for, not for high dollar amounts, but for the fact that it sells pretty easily. It's usually it's like a stretch jean, usually very comfortable, but Judy Blue can sell pretty quickly, and these had like little stars embroidered on them. And so they sold for $26. And this vintage Montana State University sweatshirt, I think I got it at a yard sale, or maybe it was a thrift store this summer sometime. And I wanted to hold out. I kept getting a lower offer. Even the buyer who ended up getting it kept offering me like 24, and I was like, no, a 30 is good. The color is good. It's just vintage collegiate wear can do pretty well right now. And I knew someone would eventually pay for it. So $30. He came back like a day later and offered me the $30 that I was kind of firm at. And so I said, yeah, for sure. That's what I was looking for. Then here is a glass bud vase. So again, Poshmark, Home Goods, don't rule them out as just clothing. This came from that ongoing estate sale. Our policy there is kind of like if it's signed, the prices are usually fairly low on the glassware. She had a lot of studio pottery, a lot of hand-blown glass art, things like that. And we can't always research it in the store, but we'll, at the estate sale, but we'll, take a chance on it, look it up later. So this vase, we figured out who the artist was, and this vase sold for $40 on Poshmark. Cutco, we picked these up on a road trip a while back and finally dug them out of a bin that, we, like a lot of resellers, we accumulate faster than we can list. And so some stuff that we had picked up on that road trip we hadn't gotten to it yet. And I happened to come across these, and I was like, oh man, we gotta get those listed. So we did, and they sold on Poshmark for $76. And another Filson item are these suspenders. They did pretty well with Poshmark. Love Poshmark for some things. Prices are better than on eBay, so $44. They're not necessarily vintage, and the tab style is a little bit of a harder sell than the clips. Over on Ruby Lane, just this next two items, I just thought I'd share what sold on Ruby Lane. This was a little dress clip, and then the same buyer also bought this dragonfly brooch by Monet, and $14 for one, $15 for the other. And then I sold this brass and cobalt blue glass bracelet for $65. I'm pretty sure I shared this with some of the other resellers that I know who know more about jewelry than I do, and they were pretty sure it was check glass. It was not marked. It did have some condition issues, but it's pretty old. So I think I put check style but not marked. It's from the 20s or 30s. And so I was super happy to get the $65. I picked this up. I think it was like a marketplace ad or a Craigslist ad or something like that. It was local. And I went to the person's house and, picked up the few pieces of jewelry from them. Kind of like a yard sale situation. Then I've got this came from that ongoing estate sale, kind of fits in with her, the vibe of a lot of the stuff that this estate was full of, but it's just this magnifying glass. I have no idea like the power of it or anything like that, but very cool bamboo handle on that. That sold for $29. And sold some flatware. Town and Country is by Washington Forge. This is always popular. Not maybe huge crazy amounts. Like I basically just did, because it's an odd mix of pieces, I just did a couple bucks per piece and sold that lot for $24. Now let's take a quick look over at Etsy. This nice bar set sold for $35, kind of a no-name, just made in Japan. Cane cutlery. $35 is probably more than we would have gotten on eBay. So there are still some things on Etsy that will sell better. As you can see, we end up, we've talked about this. We do sell these on eBay as well, but the faux wood grain alarm clocks always seem to sell. And so we just keep picking them up because we pick them up for like $1 here and there. Or at our little clearance center. This one sold for $35. It was a Sanyo. And then it seems like once we sold one, we sold a bunch. So we also sold this. The brand is Transcend. So not even a brand I've ever heard of. That one sold for $28, made in Hong Kong. And another one. This one was General Electric. Another one for $28. So just funny. And then I just thought I'd share these, another item that we that Mr. Pish Posh painted. Just a pair of those metal bookends. No big deal, but $16 for those. So anyway, as usual, like I said, these were the highlights. I just wanted to share and get caught up to the end of March. We're already halfway through April, and I need to get caught up on those What Sold videos as well. Like I said, I don't like to get too far behind on that. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing great. I hope sales are good for you. And let me know in the comments below, as usual, what your best sale of the week, or how things are they picking up, slowing down. April is usually a rough time because of tax season and spring break and things like that. But I think we're just kind of tooling along. We're doing okay. Hopefully you guys are too, and we will talk to you guys later.